Hey guys, this is Jay Calderon with Jay Unboxing, giving you my immediate reaction to the Josh Warrington versus Mauricio Lara 2 event that took place in Leeds on Saturday. Now, before we get into my takeaways here, some quick results for the entire event. Upcoming featherweight contender Hopi Price defeated Zahid Hussein in 2 rounds with a 2-round TKO, battered him front to end, and really just continued to prove that he is a featherweight to be looking out for. In a somewhat controversial car, Ebony Bridges escaped with what was likely a broken hand in a questionable points decision over Malis Gangloff after 8. While close at times, Gangloff seemed to do more work, but alas, the name gets the points as opposed to who actually did the work. In the biggest win of his career, Maxi Hughes dominated Mexico's Giovanni Straffon to claim a fringe portion of the lightweight title. He boxed beautifully, almost had the Mexican out of there in the 5th, and hardly lost a frame. Crazy turnaround in his career, and if you know his story, and I suggest you look into it if you don't, this is just another milestone in what is an amazing turnaround. Welterweight prospect Benn continued his rise to fame with a dominant win over Adrian Granados. Benn stalked, bullied, and was busier over 10 frames. Granados had a few moments late, but it wasn't close to enough, and he lost a comfortable unanimous decision. In another dominant performance, undisputed women's lightweight world champion Katie Taylor easily handled Jennifer Hahn. All three judges had a complete wipeout at 100 to 89 in favor of the highly regarded Taylor, who continues to add to her already impressive legacy. And in the main event, we get nothing. Featherweights Josh Warrington and Mauricio Lara battled for 2 rounds, but the bout was waved off due to a cut Lara suffered after a clash of heads that incidentally happened in the second frame. So let's get a little more into that fight right now. What did we learn? Well, we didn't really learn anything, but a couple things to say here. It looked a lot like the first fight was going to be sort of appearing in this second fight again. While it was clear that in the first frame, Warrington was trying to be more of the boxer puncher, was trying to move a little more, trying to counter, jab a little more, be effectively more responsible than he was in that first frame when he ultimately kind of led to some extent to his own demise. However, very quickly in that second frame, you saw that Mauricio was stalking as he was in the first, but was having some success once again. And he really did seem like he was going to have a relatively easy time getting this to turn into effectively the 13th and 14th round, or, well, the continuation of the fight that they previously had. Of course, not the 13th and 14th that they stopped Warrington in the previous encounter. But nonetheless, my point remaining, it felt like a continuation of that first fight as opposed to a situation where Warrington had made enough adjustments, in my opinion, to start winning this fight. Now, of course, it's so early in the fight, anything could have happened, but it didn't appear, based on the makeup of the fight that we did see, the little bit of it that we did see, that it was going down a lane of this is a boring tactical affair between two, chess player boxers that are just going to try and, think their way through this one. No, it looked like the first fight. And that's probably bad news to Warrington, which leads me to this question. Should Warrington want a third encounter? I think Lara's going to want to, regardless. It might be the biggest payday that he thinks he probably has an ability to win and then continue and carry that cachet into yet another payday. So for him, it makes sense to want the Lara encounter again, because you remember, short as this fight was, he got paid for it. So he's going to want to collect that third one, still thinking, yeah, he's got every reason to think he's going to win, and then he can carry that cachet forward. For Warrington, this might be a way for him to say, look, this is just a fight that I don't want. And now with the kind of controversy of the second fight, and I know I was going to win that, I think there's some bigger fights for me on the horizon, and I don't want to waste another training camp, trying to avenge a loss that I think was a fluke to begin with. Whether or not that's true, whether or not he would go so far as to say it that way, do I think it's out of the realm of possibility for him and his team to try and navigate the featherweight waters that way and perhaps try to chase another title out there, which, again, let's keep this in mind. Win, lose, or draw, Warrington is the bigger name, and he can have some big fights out there. He probably needs the Lara win on his back to really, get the sort of credibility he's looking for. But stranger things have happened in the sport, and not everyone's necessarily looking to be the most credible guy, just the most lucrative guy. And I'll also get into my second takeaway of the night here, which is pertaining to Benn. I really did like his performance in the sense that it was, pressure, and he is a pressure fighter, and he looked to have a great engine. Didn't get too overzealous or over the top with anything. The last minute of the last round was a little weird and cringeworthy as they both just taunted each other, To no one's surprise, none of their taunts actually scored a knockdown, but still they felt the desire to do that, and that's great and all. But overall, I did have some things that I kind of gleaned from the performance of Benn there, which I think that he does need to be a little more patient sometimes. He can rush his work a bit, and he needs to learn to take something off some of his shots because it's going to make his hands that are naturally pretty fast a lot faster, and it's going to put him in a position where he can then land more shots, bust his opponents up more, and then really let loose with those power shots later on in the fight because he didn't look to have as much steam on his shots later in the fight because he put so much into them early on. And that can kind of leave him one dimensional and predictable at times. It can throw him off balance at times when, quite frankly, if anyone who's ever even shadow boxed can tell you, the more and more punches you throw, the harder it is to stay balanced because you just get winded. Even for professional fighters, that's going to be true because it's difficult to stay that disciplined when you're putting 100% of yourself into every single shot. Does it make him exciting? Of course. Does it mean that he's going to have the sort of power that can change fights as he moves on and progresses? Absolutely. But you don't want to put so much into your shot that you're leaving yourself vulnerable to either getting countered, to getting tired, or both. But again, he's still a very exciting, fun to watch fighter. He does have tremendous power when he can land, and he seems to have a pretty decent engine. Was definitely in some good shape, and it's good that he finally got the Granados win out of the way for himself, and now can kind of move on to bigger and better things for himself. I do think he's probably still about 2 or 3 more fights away from maybe the top 10 or the top 5, the very, very best at 147 pounds. But still, I think he could mix it with them now. I just think he puts himself in a better position if he holds off for maybe another, anywhere from 9 to 18 months, somewhere in that range. But in any event, let me know what you guys thought of the card. I thought it was warming up pretty well. There's some decent names, and the main event was certainly looking like it was going to be exciting, if not a repeat of the first fight, at the very least, a repeat of its style and action, and that was going to be pretty exciting. But let me know what you guys thought. From the little bit that you saw, what did you think of the main event? Who did you think was kind of going whose way? Let me know what you think of Connor Benn, the Katie Taylor performance. I'd love to hear all that as well. Please be sure to like, follow, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Follow me on Twitter at jcaldor_JOB. You can email me at junboxing@gmail.com. You can also visit junboxing.com for schedule, results, rankings, betting odds, all that good stuff. And as always, until next time.